Hi, I'm Trantor. We're going to take a look at concentrated liquidity and the new liquidity tab we have here on Ramses exchange. Notably, I'm going to use ARB ETH, so that's the Arbitrum token and the ETH token, because that's what I'm interested in providing liquidity for. You'll note the flashing sign up here on liquidity, indicating this is beta, because this is a big change in how the UI and the UX is done. In other words, our user interface is going to be experienced by each of us users. So we'll go through today how we're going to set up our position on ETH ARB and what we can do. First thing I would like to highlight, though, is that there's two options. You can either do it directly here on this page, or alternatively, you can go across to Gamma and conduct the same thing there. Now, I've done this previously with Gamma, and you'll note the reward APR here is set at 74.72%, with the total APR set at 83%. That's simply combining the reward and the fee to give you this total. My concern, of course, is if you hover over the total rewards here on Gamma, you'll note that the total here is more like 41% rather than the much higher indicated numbers there. And in addition to that, when you talk through benefits and trade-offs, it gives you an indication of how the rebalancing is actually done. So in this instance, for a narrow strategy as it's set, you get a liquidity range set at essentially 10% and 1,000% of the current price, and then it rebalances that overall. So in truth, it's constantly rebalancing. It's good for a set and forget type of option. And if you go through the analytics part here, it gives you an indication of how much better you are off by the constant rebalancing that Gamma achieves for you, rather than simply doing it yourself if you just held all in ETH, all in ARB, or alternatively just simply your initial deposit without putting it in Gamma. So not a whole lot here, in particular with the recent dumps in the market. But what I would say is that I'm not entirely convinced that this 74% is accurate. I did a video a couple of days ago and it showed 8%. So just note that that changes quite a bit. Right, so back to actually how we do this on Ramses. We're going to go through a full process now. We're interested in providing, as I said, concentrated liquidity on Arbitrum and ETH. If we go down now and scroll through the different options, we can see quite a few different dead vaults here. That's with these red pieces, but this is the one we want. So concentrated liquidity, ETH, ARB, and we'd like to set up a position. The APR range here is at 22% through to 55. And just to be clear on that, 22 is an estimation of how that would be, of what you would likely get with your band. And 55.3 is if you had, again, a good band, but you had the maximum boost. So we'll go through what all that means in just a moment. Okay, so the way it's set up at the moment, you can see this current band is giving you a very tight band on how you might seek to set up your position. So this could give you actually a little bit higher than that 22 and might actually get all the way up to that 55, which I know I said previously was more on the boosted sort of option. So you've got a couple of different ways of doing it. To note, the minimum number is assessed to be within about 7% or 8% of the price. So it's a 15% band of the current price difference. So currently you'll note that there's 1,785. Yeah, sorry, here it is. 1,785 ARB per each ETH. The way that 22% is calculated, which is what we showed just before, is that if it's essentially 7% down in this direction, so we drag that down to a full 7%, and same again, 7% up in that direction. Sorry, 7.5. So a total of 15% within the current price range. That is the estimated amount that gives you that 22% on ETH ARB. You now have a number of other options. If you wanted to set full range, for example, when you click on that, that gives you now the full, $1 million to 0 sort of structure and gives you the full options for absolutely everything. So it covers everything. Just note that your returns on that will be much smaller. Right? So you'll have a significantly less percentage return, which is, again, harder to quantify, but you'll have a less return on your actual position itself. Now, we've got the different options here for how we might want to add liquidity. We'll need to refresh how we do this now because we've gone through and played around with it. So we're going to go back to ARB, go through and find our pool, and we're going to set ourselves up in what we consider to be a reasonable bracket. So this is quite a tight bracket here, 1784 to 1785. Instead, I want to have a bracket that's a little bit wider than that so that I'm not getting myself in such a problem. So I'm going to zoom in. Actually, no, I'll zoom out and get myself percentages that I think are a bit more reasonable. And you can see here how everyone else's liquidity is done. That's this gray outline box, and that's the limit of most others' liquidity. So I'm now going to drag mine out to be, say, within, I'm going to go 5% of the current price either way. So 5% in that direction and across to 5% in this direction. All right, so it's within 5% of the price in both directions. And that gives me 1695 through to 1873 as the two different price options. I like to put all of my ARB in to do this, and I'm going to click on Add Liquidity. So now go through this process. And I'll click on this and that'll confirm the entirety of the position. And we confirm we've added liquidity, right? Now, if we want to have a look at where that is, we can go back to the liquidity page here and we can look at all the different liquidity options. But you can see on the right here, we've got our own pools. And this gives us a summary of what pools we've got. For starters, it shows the tick, which is the current middle position here where we are. We're right at 50-50. You'll note here it says we are not in a boosted position at the moment, with my APR estimated at 22.1%, which is around that bottom indication I showed you before. Current price remains at 17.85, and this is our position in here in our stake. There are other options, of course. You could go to V1 pools, which are not concentrated liquidity, or you can continue adding liquidity to positions like this. So here we are. Now, if we'd like to go through and actually attach, noting that I mentioned before, this is not a boosted position. If you want to actually attach our VRAM to this position, if we have some locked VRAM already, we can click on that, take us back to my position here, and this gives us a summary. So it shows us again a good summary of what we've actually got as our position, and now we can attach our VRAM to that, which is how we would then seek to provide boost. I just want to show you, I'm not going to click on this now, but I have a reasonably large VRAM position, but I would expect that the total I would get as a boost would not be very much. It'd be a much smaller amount. So I'd probably get a boost of about 1.1 thereabouts on the actual position, which is not enough to seriously budge the APR range. So what I can do instead is go across to ennead, which is, again, I get to use their boost. I go to CL boost here, and it goes through a variety of what my different positions are. Now, if I go through and have a look at the one I just set up, this is my wrapped ETH ARB position here, currently on 22%. And now I can click boost. And we'll see what actual options we can get here with ennead now that I'm boosting with them. The reason why it's important for us to boost with them, of course, is because they're going to use their much larger VRAM position, which currently sits at about 40 million VRAM. And there we go, look at that. Because they've got the best possible boost with fire, we get a 2.5. And our position has gone from earning 22% up to 55%. So we've gone up to the maximum sort of boost option. So to me, that makes the most sense. We've got a 55%. We've set ourselves up in a wrapped ETH ARB position, and we've checked that here for our actual VRAM, actual ARB ETH position. And if we go back to liquidity now, look at our positions, it won't now show it to us because we've got it boosted over on ennead. So if you look here as my pools, it won't show our position here in liquidity anymore because it's now being shown instead over at ennead. Anyway, if you've got any questions on how to use any of this interface, please let me know. I'll see you all in the next video.